Okay, so picture this. You're staring at a sunset, and the sky is this incredibly dramatic, like fiery mix of purple and orange.
Right, like a really intense landscape.
Yeah, exactly. But right in the middle of this beautiful landscape is a tree. And it's not just any tree. This is an aggressively angry, incredibly muscular tree.
It literally has like thick, bulging biceps made of bark, and it is actively clenching its fists.
It really is just such a startling image. I mean, it has this deeply furious face carved right into the trunk, teeth bared, just radiating absolute rage.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And then, floating in this perfect, delicate arc above this furious ripped tree are five brightly colored, semi-transparent geometric shapes.
Like glowing neon squares of fabric.
Right, just hanging in the air.
I mean, it stands out as honestly one of the most bizarre and thought-provoking visuals we've come across in our research for a while.
Oh, absolutely. Which, brings us to the text floating right above this muscular, furious tree. It asks this really bold, provocative question. It says, stuck in anger. Don't talk it out. Toss it out.
Toss it out.
Yeah, and below that is the name of the system. Toss, catch, heal. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a truly fascinating set of sources today from a platform called healthavenues.com.
Yeah, our mission today is to thoroughly unpack this specific, highly unconventional program. I mean, we're looking at a movement-based approach to stress management that makes a pretty massive claim.
Which is?
Well, the claim is that when we are completely overwhelmed, we shouldn't necessarily sit still
Yeah.
or, verbalize our feelings.
Mhm.
Instead, we should literally juggle our way out of anger and stress.
I am so intrigued by this because it completely flips the script on, like, everything we're taught about emotional regulation.
It really does.
The core premise from the text we're analyzing is this simple but powerful phrase. They say, emotions are energy in motion. And the site claims that when anger floods your system, talking about it can actually keep it stuck.
Right.
You have to physically move it out of your body, toss, catch, heal.
Yeah, the departure from standard wellness advice here is profound. I mean,
Yeah.
the conventional wisdom for decades has focused almost exclusively on either vocalization, tucking it out, or complete stillness.
Okay, let me stop you right there, though, because honestly, I have to play devil's advocate for the listener here.
Yeah, go for it.
The idea of, like, juggling away my anger sounds a bit ridiculous at first glance.
Oh, it sounds totally absurd.
Right. If I'm furious about a work email or I'm dealing with serious anxiety, the absolute last thing I want to do is grab some circus props.
Yeah, you're not in the mood for a performance.
No. I mean, why wouldn't I just go for a run or punch a pillow or just do what society tells me to do, which is, go sit on a therapist's couch and talk through my childhood or sit on a meditation cushion until the anger just magically evaporates.
Well, the answer traces back to the founder's background, which I think really contextualizes why traditional methods often fail for people when they're in states of high distress.
Okay.
The creator of this toss, catch, heal method didn't start as a traditional psychotherapist or a mindfulness guru. They actually spent years as a neuromuscular body worker.
A neuromuscular body worker. Wait, so what? They spent their career physically manipulating muscles?
Exactly, specifically dealing with how the nervous system communicates with the physical tissues of the body.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's a biological basis here.
Right. The text notes that through years of doing that specific physical work, the founder observed undeniable patterns in how the human body literally stores stress.
Like physically holding on to it.
Yes. When you experience anger or severe anxiety, your sympathetic nervous system kicks into high gear. Your brain floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol.
Getting ready to fight or run.
Exactly. Preparing you to either fight for your life or run away. So your muscles physically tense up to brace for impact.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this, if you just go sit cross-legged in a quiet room while your body is flooded with those fight or flight chemicals, that energy has absolutely nowhere to go.
It has nowhere to go.
You're just sitting there vibrating.
Yeah, for many people, trying to release deeply held physical tension through stillness alone is just incredibly difficult, if not entirely counterproductive.
Because it just feels like you're trapped.
Right, it can actually cause more panic. But then, on the flip side, going to a boxing gym and aggressively punching a heavy bag might feel good in the moment. But the founder noted that violent thrashing movements can sometimes reinforce the neurological state of combat.
Oh, interesting. So your brain still thinks it's in a literal fight for survival.
Exactly. You're still feeding that stress loop.
Yeah. So you need something that moves the body but doesn't mimic fighting or fleeing.
And that is exactly where that concept of kinetic release comes into play. The founder realized that the specific mechanics of juggling could be utilized as a deliberate mechanism to retrain focus.
To actively interrupt those chemical stress loops?
Yes. By engaging in this structured rhythmic movement, you force the mind and the body to reconnect in a non-threatening way.
So you aren't just sitting with the stuck energy.
Right.
And you aren't aggressively punching it out.
Exactly. You are giving the nervous system a very specific, complex physical pathway to process the biochemical flood.
Okay, but how does throwing objects in the air actually achieve that on a biological level? I mean, the site calls this cross-training for your nervous system, which, sounds great on a marketing brochure.
It's a great tagline, yeah.
But what is the actual mechanism at work inside the brain here?
Well, the source material anchors this entire philosophy on one critical quote, and it's this: stress isn't the problem, slow recovery is.
Ooh, let's pause on that for a second. Stress isn't the problem. Slow recovery is.
Right.
Because we spend so much of our lives trying to curate these perfectly stress-free environments, which is basically impossible unless you live in a bubble.
Life is inherently chaotic. You can't avoid stress.
So true.
The biological claim this program makes relies entirely on how we train our physical and neurological recovery from those inevitable stressors. And the mechanism they use to train that recovery is cross-body coordination.
Cross-body coordination.
Yeah. When you're tossing and catching these objects, you are constantly crossing the midline of your body.
Yeah.
Your left hand throws to your right side, and your right hand throws to your left side.
So wait, I want to break down why that midline crossing actually matters. What happens in the brain when we force the left side of our body to interact with the right side in a continuous loop like that?
Okay, so the human brain has two hemispheres, right?
Yeah.
And they're connected by this bundle of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum.
Okay.
When you are in the middle of a stress response, say a full-blown anger spiral, your amygdala, which is the brain's emotional alarm system, is essentially hijacking your processing power.
You just get stuck.
Yeah, rumination takes over. But when you begin a task that requires crossing the physical midline of your body, you force both hemispheres of your brain to communicate with each other in real time.
Because, if I remember my biology correctly, the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, and the right hemisphere controls the left.
Exactly.
So to juggle, they literally have to talk to each other.
They do. You are simultaneously demanding that your motor cortex manage a physical rhythm, your visual cortex track moving objects across your center of vision, and your prefrontal cortex calculate all the inevitable micro-adjustments you need to make to catch the objects.
Wow. It sounds like forcing a computer to run a massive diagnostic test so it has to close all the background apps.
That is a perfect analogy, yes.
So the rumination, like the obsessive thoughts about that text message that made you mad, is just a background app.
Exactly. You are hijacking the brain's processing power and redirecting it to this immediate, complex physical task. You literally do not have the brain bandwidth to actively obsess over your anger while you're simultaneously forcing your brain to coordinate this rhythm.
It just crowds it out.
The heavy, real-time neurological load crowds out the emotional spiral. And, the ultimate goal they state in the text is quite grounding. They explicitly mention that just 5 minutes of doing these repeated reps isn't meant to make you happy.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because the wellness industry is just saturated with toxic positivity, promising that if you just do this one breathing exercise, you'll be flooded with joy.
Yeah, that's not what they're selling here.
The text here says the goal is simply to watch your system come back to neutral. Not happy, not raging, just steady.
And returning to a functional baseline is a highly pragmatic approach to emotional regulation. You neutralize the threat response so you can just go about your day.
That makes a lot of sense.
And understanding that biological goal really helps explain how they actually package and teach this method to the public.
Okay, so let's dive into the actual product being sold. Because as fascinating as the theory is, this isn't just a free philosophy blog. Health Avenues is running a pilot program called Scarves and Flow State.
Yes.
And the price tag is very specific. It's $540.
Yeah, a price point of $540 clearly positions this as a serious, structured wellness intervention. It's much closer to a therapeutic protocol than, a casual hobby tutorial you might find on YouTube.
Oh, for sure. And that price makes me look very closely at the tools they require. Because the program is called Scarves and Flow State. They specifically mandate the use of lightweight juggling scarves.
Right. Not balls.
Which is funny because when I think of juggling, my brain instantly goes to heavy bean bags. or tennis balls, or maybe flaming bowling pins if we're at a circus.
Natural.
So why on earth would a $540 stress reduction program insist on essentially throwing flimsy pieces of fabric around?
Well, the choice of scarves over balls is a highly calculated decision based on physics, and specifically how physics interacts with a fried nervous system.
Okay, how so?
The text explains that scarves move slowly. Gravity acts on them differently because they catch the air. So because they float down at a delayed speed, it gives the brain extra fractions of a second to process each individual motion.
Ah, I see. So they act like training wheels for your visual tracking system.
Exactly.
Because if I'm already furious or anxious, my heart rate is elevated. If you hand me 3 heavy tennis balls and tell me to learn a complex new physical skill, I am going to drop them immediately.
Over and over again, because they fall too fast.
And then I'm just going to get more mad.
Right. The frustration from constantly dropping fast-moving objects would cause a sharp spike in cortisol. Your stress levels would actually increase, defeating the entire purpose of the kinetic release.
Oh, wow. So by using slow-moving scars, the program allows the user to experience early success.
Yes. The brain gets the necessary extra milliseconds to coordinate the hands and the eyes.
You build confidence immediately without the sharp spike of failure, which allows the person to settle into a natural rhythm.
Exactly. You are trying to heal a stressed nervous system,
Right.
so utilizing a tool that mitigates secondary stress just makes total sense.
It's so smart. So a user pays the fee, gets the special recommended slow-moving scarves, and enters the curriculum. And looking at the sources, the structure they lay out is incredibly strict and no nonsense.
It really is. It is a regimented 5-week guided program. Users are instructed to practice 3 times a week using short, structured video sessions.
So it's progressive.
Very. Each week builds progressively, starting from just 1 single scarf, moving to 2, and eventually working up to a fully coordinated cross-body flow.
You know, what really stood out to me in the source material about the aesthetic of this training is what they specifically choose to leave out.
Right, the environment.
The text notes that these are short, quiet video tutorials, no distracting music, clear verbal cues.
The cognitive environment they are designing here is absolutely vital to the success of the protocol.
Yeah.
I mean, think about modern fitness and wellness apps.
Oh, they're intense.
They are almost universally hyper-stimulating. You have pumping background music, dynamic, fast-cutting camera angles.
And usually a really charismatic host yelling motivational slogans at you while a timer counts down in, like, bright neon letters.
Exactly. It is absolute sensory overload.
And if you're logging on because you are stuck in an anger loop, having a digital instructor scream, "Crush your goals," over a techno beat is probably going to push you closer to the edge.
Yeah, that's not going to help.
Huh?
So Health Avenues is actively stripping all of that away. Quiet videos, no music, just the mechanics of the movement.
The clinical aesthetic reinforces that this is a true nervous system reset rather than an aerobic workout class.
Precisely. And that quiet environment perfectly sets the stage for how they progress the user through the curriculum. There are 3 distinct tiers of training each week.
Okay, let's go through those.
Sure. Tier 1 is learn the drill. That's the quiet tutorials. Tier 2 is do the reps. And Tier 3 is submit to graduate.
I really want to zoom in on Tier 2. Do the reps. Because looking through these sources, this contains arguably the most surprising and fascinating psychological component of the entire method.
It's definitely the core of the psychological work.
Under this tier, the instructions explicitly tell the user to, quote, focus on the intentional drop. And then it mentions taking quick 10-question quizzes to build your dopamine baseline.
Right.
I want to take this piece by piece. What does it actually mean to focus on an intentional drop?
Well, we see the method transition here from mere physical coordination to active psychological conditioning. They are literally training the brain to recover from mistakes.
Because usually dropping is a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But consider the physiological reaction you have when you accidentally drop something in your kitchen or when you make a visible mistake in daily life.
Oh, like spilling a cup of coffee right as you're rushing out the door for work.
Exactly. What happens? You tense up, your heart rate spikes.
You get that hot flash of frustration, maybe a little rush of shame. You just freeze for a second.
Right. That is a micro-stress response. By explicitly instructing the user to perform an intentional drop, to purposefully let the scarf fall to the ground while they're in the middle of a flow state, they are asking the user to confront that micro-stress response in a completely controlled environment.
So you drop it on purpose.
You drop it, you acknowledge that the pattern was broken, and you calmly bend down, pick it up, and resume the rhythm.
Oh, wow. You are practicing failure.
Yes.
You are literally doing physical repetitions of making a mistake and recovering from it over and over until the mistake loses its emotional charge.
And building a steady, unshakable focus for when things get chaotic in real life requires that kind of repetition.
Oh,
If the central thesis is stress isn't the problem, slow recovery is, then this intentional drop is the actual mechanism for training fast recovery.
that makes so much sense.
You teach your nervous system on a visceral, physical level that a dropped ball or dropped scarf
Yeah.
is not a catastrophe. It's just a brief pause before the rhythm starts again.
That makes the physical act of dropping the scarf incredibly profound, actually. But I'm still trying to connect the dots on the second half of that tier.
The quizzes.
Yeah. The text mentions taking short quizzes to build your dopamine baseline. How does answering a multiple choice question fit into repairing a fried nervous system?
So dopamine is frequently misunderstood simply as a pleasure chemical. Like, oh, I ate a cupcake, I got dopamine. But neurologically, it is the motivation and reward molecule.
Okay.
It drives us to take action and reinforces behaviors that lead to success. Now, when we are highly stressed or stuck in an anger loop, our dopamine levels can become depleted. We start to feel helpless or stuck.
We feel like we have no control over the situation, which is the worst feeling.
Exactly. By introducing a simple, structured 10-question quiz right after a physical session, the program gives the brain a highly predictable, easily solvable problem.
Oh, I see.
You just practiced failing by dropping the scarf.
Yeah.
Now you sit down and answer a few simple questions about the mechanics you just learned. Every time you get a question right, your brain gets a microdose of dopamine.
You are manufacturing a win.
Precisely.
You experience a mild stressor, the dropped scarf, you recover from it, and then you immediately go answer a quiz correctly, giving your brain a hit of accomplishment.
You are chemically rewarding your brain for staying steady through the failure.
That is an incredibly comprehensive approach to rewiring how we handle stress. I mean, it's brilliant.
It really is. And the protocol culminates in the third tier, submit to graduate.
Right.
To unlock the next level of the 5-week program, the user can't just click a button saying they finished. They have to actually record a practice video of themselves performing the routine and submit it for a direct back-end review by the program staff.
Which builds in massive accountability. I mean, you can't just passively watch the videos from your couch and pretend you did the emotional work.
No, you can't fake it.
You have to physically prove to an instructor that your nervous system is processing the cross-body movement and handling the drops before they let you move on to more complex patterns.
And for a pilot program charging over $500, that level of direct human oversight really justifies the cost.
Yeah, you're getting actual feedback.
Right. The review process ensures fidelity to the method, because if a user is rushing through the movements, or if they're getting intensely frustrated and their shoulders are tensed up by their ears while they toss the scarves.
The reviewer will see that the kinetic release isn't happening.
Exactly. The nervous system is still locked in fight or flight, and they will need to repeat the week.
So, putting all this together, what does this mean for you, the listener? I mean, if you are an adult navigating a high-pressure job, or maybe you have a teen who constantly feels stuck in their head, just completely overwhelmed by the demands of the day.
It's so common.
It is. If you are someone who has tried the standard advice, if you found that sitting still in silence on a meditation app just makes your anxiety scream louder, well, maybe what your nervous system actually needs isn't stillness. Maybe it needs kinetic release.
Yeah, for individuals who haven't found success with conventional static methods, engaging the motor cortex to bypass the emotional centers of the brain offers a highly compelling alternative pathway to regulation.
Now, we should briefly mention, as the source material strictly notes in its legal disclaimer, that all of the information provided by Health Avenues is for educational purposes.
Right, it is not medical advice.
Exactly. They are not providing mental health services. But as an educational framework for understanding how our physical bodies hold on to and potentially release emotional stress,
Yeah.
it is incredibly thought-provoking.
It really leaves us with a rather profound concept to mull over as we wrap up today, particularly regarding the psychology of the intentional drop.
Yeah, that part really stuck with me.
We've analyzed how this program uses the slow, floating fall of a fabric scarf to physically train the brain to recover from small mistakes.
Right. Taking the panic out of the foul.
Exactly. So consider the macro implications of that specific training. If our overall resilience in life is truly defined by how quickly we can bounce back after dropping the ball, how might practicing failure in a low-stakes physical environment fundamentally alter us?
Wow. Yeah, if you can train your brain not to freeze or flood with cortisol when a scarf hits the living room floor, maybe you won't panic when an unexpected medical bill arrives or when a massive project at work goes terribly wrong.
Exactly. How does mastering the recovery from a literal slow-moving drop rewire our neural pathways to process the heavy, high-stakes, fast-moving drops we inevitably face in our daily lives?
It really all comes back to that striking image we started with. You don't have to be the aggressively angry, muscular tree, with your bark tensed up and your fists clenched against the sunset, just holding on to all that rage forever.
You don't have to hold it.
You can choose to let the energy move. You can toss it out, watch it fall, and just calmly pick it back up.
If this made sense to you and you'd like to join Toss Catch Heal, visit tosscatchheal.healthavenues.com.